then finally, the third movement of his sonata is really full of resolve. I almost think it's like his father's resolve for his son to become an aristocratic gentleman. And Saint-Georges, through all of his racial indignities, all of the other sadnesses, was able to transcend all of this and still write uplifting music for the world to rediscover and enjoy. Thank you. Thank you. Finally, in the year 2001, a street was renamed to Rue de Chevalier de Saint-Georges. This was in 2001. It was done at the request of French citizens from the West Indies. Now, the original dates on that street change was from 1739 to 1799. If that were the case, he would have been 60 when he died. However, Gabriel Binet, again, through his extensive research and others, have now determined that he was born in 1745. And he died in 1799, so that made him die at 54. Again, it was through the efforts of Gabriel Binet. So if you ever go to France, look up the street, Rue de Chevalier de Saint-Georges. There are more recordings now that are coming out, French recordings particularly, of his music. But in this country, you can also get some of his music through Toffel Music or through some other recording companies. All you have to do is go to Amazon.com and type in Saint-Georges, and you will find, the music that's available. So that is the story of Saint-Georges, an incredible character. And there's much more to the story that I could have told you tonight, but of course it's getting late. So as a result, maybe in the future, I have whet your appetite enough so that you'll want to do some reading on your own about this incredible black man, Le Mozart Noir. And you will see that there are indeed people of all nationality, all races, who can do some pretty amazing things through the gift that God gives them. So thank you all very much for being a wonderful audience. I've enjoyed speaking with you and performing with you this evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Charles, what an amazing story this has been. Before we close out our program, we have a couple more questions for you from our audience. Hi.
Hi, I'm Carl Middleman, and I'm a musician here in Philadelphia. And thank you for this fascinating presentation. You've drawn attention to how Chevalier de Saint-Georges overcame obstacles of race in Paris of his time. And you've also drawn some attention to similarities between the fiery brilliance of his violin playing and his part writing for the violin and his fencing. And I'm wondering if we can take that even a step further and maybe find sort of military codes in his music. For instance, in the sonata that you just played in the first movement, it begins with almost what sounds like a fanfare. Boom, boom, boom. And also in the movie, in the second of the film clips, it sounded like the violin player was going off on a wild fanfare type riff towards the end of that excerpt. So I wonder whether that occurred to you and whether you think that we can find other examples of military codes in his music.
I don't really know how to answer that question at this point. That's a really good question. I'm going to have to do some more research. I've never looked at it that way, nor any of the readings that I've done have insinuated anything to that effect. Most of the pieces that he wrote were written before he became a colonel in the Army. So I don't know if there was any code writing, but I will check into that, and I'm sure you will as well. I can't answer that question.
My name's Jack McCarthy. I'm from Philadelphia. I'm also a musician. I noticed in the first movement of the Sonata in C a lot of similarities to the first movement of Mozart's Sonata in C. A lot of similarities, and I'm wondering which one was written first and which one do you think influenced the other? I know Chevalier was 11 years older than Mozart, I guess, so would his sonata have been written first, and you think that may have influenced Mozart or the other way around?
I don't know. No, this sonata was written first. Mozart's Kochel 545 was written, it's 1700, but I don't know the exact date. But, you know, it's a Kochel 545. I thought that way as well. I don't mind telling you that because I do hear a similarity. But I can't really say that Saint-Georges or Mozart copied from Saint-Georges. I don't know at this point. I had to analyze this work. I just got the work, quite frankly, from Anne Francis. And as a musician, you will notice that in the second theme, there are 4 measures of transition which really don't belong there, I would think. I mean, they're extended measures. So if you really listen and analyze the work, I mean, he's following a pseudo-sonata allegro form. But there are 4 measures in the exposition and also in the recapitulation, which really don't need to be there. This part. That part. I'm trying to figure out what's the relevance of that part. It leads on to the second theme, but it's a strange transition, and I really can't make that out yet. So, Saint-Georges was not as skilled a composer as Mozart. I don't know exactly when this Sonata number 1 was written, but I'm hoping to get all 11 of the sonatas, and then I can study them and find out, you know, along with the Mozart works, if Mozart took any music or if Saint-Georges, because, you know, let's face it, Handel was borrowing from himself all the time. He borrowed from himself, you know. So I can't answer that question either. I would tend to think that there's a possibility, but I'm hoping that Mozart wouldn't do that.
Well, Charles, you have taught us so much. How about leaving us with a final thought on Saint-Georges?
Well, Saint-Georges was truly an incredible man. He was an incredibly generous man. And even though he lived the lap of luxury, he always took time for people less fortunate than himself. And he always remembered, even though he was a superstar, he always remembered who he was, and he always thought about the little guy, because he recognized if it hadn't been for his father, he would never have made it out of Guadeloupe, and he would have been destined to be a slave. It's as simple as that. His father loved him so much that he gave him a new title. He introduced him to, all the gentlemanly things in society. So, the love of a father and his son, even though they were culturally different. When you think about it, the father was white, but he gave everything to the son at the expense of his true wife, and his daughter. Because even today, people don't know about Elizabeth, the daughter. We know that she existed, but there's no history. We don't even know if we know they had to live together for a time, but I don't think there's any account that they really stayed in touch with each other. Maybe she felt that being associated with him would give her a negative name. We don't know at this point. But through it all, and through this last movement that I played of his third sonata, there's a resolve there. And he lived that way. So no matter what happened to him in his life, he still resolved to help as many people as he could. And I guess that's what we're all here for. I mean, to help people in the best way that we can, to give of our substance, to help other people who are less fortunate. Clearly, he did that. So, I mean, he was a definite role model that I think more people should read about and know. Not only musically, but from a spiritual and moral point of view. He was a great man as well.
Well, on that note, we will conclude our program. Thanks so much to Charles Pettaway for sharing not only wonderful insights with us, but his own musical gifts as well. Thanks to our host, the Trinity Center for Urban Life in Philadelphia, to our wonderful audience for their questions and insights. And if you'd like more information on Humanities on the Road, please check out the website, pahumanities.org. Again, we're so thrilled that you've joined us for the program. I'm Tracy Matisak. Thanks for watching.